A long time ago, on the distant planet of Fat Land, the human race was enslaved and dominated by monsters and spirits. That was until the year 2501 when an asteroid of demons and orcs invaded the planet and attacked its only continent. This resulted in the masters of monsters and spirits uniting and creating the 7 divine beads, in an attempt to fight back against the invasion and save the world. The power of the beads failed, however, to resist the invasion, which resulted in the continent being torn apart and divided into 6 domains and 7 oceans, which became known as the Land of Miracles. The 7 divine beads scattered and disappeared. Their whereabouts remain unknown. In the magic domain City of Wisdom, we meet a young boy called Hua who is facing a trial inside the Temple of Wisdom. He's called forward by Yun, the master of the Wisdom City, who calls for Hua to be bathed in the glory of the sacred book. Hua steps up and instantly forms a strong connection and mutters to himself that he hopes to be blessed with the power code. Everyone watching is shocked by the strong connection, and Yun realizes that Hua is the chosen law enforcer of the magic domain. The sacred law enforcer book then comes into Hua's possession upon the completion of the trial. We then meet Lan, a young boy born into the royalty of the blue domain, who is being flown by his parents to their elemental sea. Lan is a very energetic kid and is excited to be there. He's informed by his dad, Xiang, the master of Thunder City, that their family owns the largest elemental sea out of all 376. Xiang glances at his wife Yao and explains to Lan that they can only use the elemental sea, not because of their royal status, but to bring happiness and freedom to the people of their domain. Lan is intrigued by the fish and asks if he can eat them, but his dad explains that the fish are elementalists and that some of them will grant him his elemental gifts, which will give him his magic powers. Lan is now eager to know what elements will give him recognition, and asks his parents how he can find out, which results in his mom kicking him into the sea. Xiang and Yao discuss briefly which elements their son will receive, and they see the light of wisdom in the distance, which confirms to Xiang that the magic domain has found their chosen one. They begin to worry as there's been no sign of Lan after a short while. Yao breaks down as she believes there's a possibility that Lan has drowned, but Xiang tries to comfort her and convince her to remain patient and wait for the outcome. Suddenly the sky darkens, and the elemental tide rises explosively, carrying Lan, who is having a blast with the fish. His parents count 4 different elemental fish that have risen with Lan, which all emerge inside him, and are delighted with the result. Lan has been declared as the chosen one for the blue domain of freedom, since 4 elements are an extremely rare gift to be blessed with. Yao then cries out for Lan as he passes out afterward and falls into the sea. He rises as a young man performing in front of a crowd who all adore him and chants his name. As Lan waves to the crowd, an opponent comes to attack him from behind. He narrowly dodges the attack and begins to defend himself by avoiding his opponent's strikes, and manages to land a counter blow. The opponent continues to attack, but Lan easily avoids and counters these efforts, which results in his opponent unleashing the power of Aurum. This is a very powerful attack, but Lan uses his elemental powers and creates a thunder break which stops the Aurum and sends his opponent flying through the air. The crowd erupts and cheers for Lan, who asks his opponent if he gives in. His opponent is stunned and yields, telling him that he wouldn't have challenged if he knew his elemental powers were at the 5th level. Before Lan can officially win the bout, he hears a bell sounding and realizes this is his dad calling for him. Lan forfeits the bout and proceeds to leave, but waves to the crowd before flying away. His opponent rolls around the ground crying as he is very upset to be defeated. Lan flies to the palace of the Thunder City but stops midway in the air and begins to show his cocky ego, telling himself that being too popular is his main problem and that all of his fights are too boring. He asks himself what his dad could want from him. Back at the magic domain, at the governor's office, Hua, who is also a young man, has been summoned by Yun, who he refers to as Godfather. Yun asks him if he has ever heard of the 7 divine beads. Simultaneously, Lan asks his dad if the beads exist. His dad tells him the tale of his ancestors who all predicted the invasion with the Book of Prophecy, where the masters of monsters and spirits united the continent to mobilize treasures. They took the colorful lotus fire as the foundation and infused it with the blood of 12 monsters and 12 spirits to create the 7 beads. Lan asks what happened after this tale, and we travel back to Magic Domain where Yin explains to Hua that the beads only slowed down the invasion and failed to resist the demonic orc planet, which eventually led to the collapse of the continent. However, this created an opportunity for humans as the whereabouts of the beads are unknown. Hua curiously asks what he means by saying all of this to him. In the Blue Domain, Lan tells his dad that he is uninterested and won't go to find the beads. His dad firmly tells him, however, that the beads are the most legendary artifacts and that the Magic Domain will also most definitely be sending someone to find them. Lan questions what it has to do with him. In Magic Domain, Yin tells Hua that it has everything to do with him and he must go on a quest to take back the Peerless Bead for the City of Wisdom. Yin explains that Hua is the best candidate for the quest, and Hua questions what makes the Peerless Bead so significant. He explains that it's the most special of the artifacts and he'll send 500 sorcerers with him to the Nameless Island to look for it. He'll then be the only person allowed on the island. Hua is determined and assures his godfather he'll find the bead. On the other hand, Lan goes for a snooze as his dad tries to convince him that he should go to the Nameless Island to search for the Peerless Bead. Lan is lazy and arrogant and firmly decides that he will not take on the quest, so his dad has no option but to manipulate him into becoming the candidate. He tells his son that his mom was thinking about allowing him to be arranged into marriage since he's now old enough, but he opposed this and told her that he should be given a few years of freedom to date whomever he likes. This grabs the attention of Lan. His dad continues to say that he now thinks his mom is right, which makes Lan instantly go on his knees and desperately apologize for deciding to not partake in the quest. Xiang is relieved as his son has now promised that he will bring the bead back to the Blue Domain and allows him to use all of his elements, as this is a very important task in which he must succeed in. Lan is delighted to hear that he can use all of his elements and flies out of the window to begin the journey. Lan is riding a dolphin on the Sea Domain to reach the Nameless Island. He is in high spirits and sings as he rides. However, he crosses paths with Hua's ship, which he doesn't see at first, and steers out of the way of a collision at the last moment. Hua watches him lose balance riding his dolphin and fall into the sea. Lan is enraged as he gets back onto his dolphin and begins a tense stare down with Hua, whom he tells to leave as the Peerless Bead belongs to him. Hua does not mess around and displays his 5th level powers, which Lan responds to by sarcastically acting scared. Before rising with the sea to display his power, Hua begins to set up the Divine Statue move and calls for his sorcerers on another ship to contribute to the attack. Lan is not fazed at first, but as Hua releases the attack, he panics and urgently flies up and out of the way. He calls him shameless and attacks him back with a fireball, which leaves Hua shocked as he can control multiple elements. The attack is reflected away, causing a huge splash in the ocean, and Lan curses at Hua, who attacks again with a mass amount of flames, which catches Lan and knocks him into the ocean. He rises and sprints across the water, creating a lightning attack that Hua only just defends. Lan has been pushed back by the defense and now creates a bubble shield to avoid another mass fireball attack by Hua. The attack is relentless and Lan is under pressure, so he decides to use his electro body power to escape and teleport himself onto the Nameless Island. Lan calls Hua for his name and states to him that he is in a bad situation. They both tensely stare into each other's eyes and simultaneously claim that they will take the Peerless Bead. In the distance, another ship witnessed the full battle between Lan and Hua. A mysterious woman tells her crew member to let them both fight and that the Peerless Bead will be hers. Lan continues to curse at Hua before turning around and sprinting into the Nameless Island. Hua does not chase him, however. Instead, he calmly begins to venture into the island, where he continuously feels some waves in the air which lead him to a steep canyon. He looks down into the canyon and begins to sense that the Peerless Bead is close before suddenly being attacked from behind by Lan. He avoids the attack and faces Lan, who tells him that he's never been embarrassed like this before. Lan then attacks again, only for Hua to defend the strike with ease, which causes Lan to be enraged as he begins to insult Hua by telling him that he has something wrong with his face. Lan then charges to attack a second time, but Hua remains calm and composed and blocks him using his shield, which results in Lan almost falling into the canyon. Again, he is enraged that he can't beat Hua, so he unleashes a huge attack which creates an intense exchange. They both notice a large rock flying towards them from out of nowhere. So they break the exchange to defend themselves before a bear warrior of the sacred domain suddenly lunges and pushes them both back. The warrior then transforms himself into a bear and begins to fight Lan, who taunts him. Lan counters all of the bear's attacks and gets the better of the fight, resulting in the bear warrior transforming back into his human form. Lan taunts the bear warrior again, but before anything can instigate, the woman from the ship appears and calls off the fighting. She introduces herself as Xing of the Silver Lotus clan, the sister of the bear warrior. Xing approaches the confrontation peacefully and offers to Lan and Hua that they all have a tournament to determine who gets to take the bead. Lan is attracted to her and engages in negotiating a fair tournament structure, whilst Hua takes a look down the side of the canyon and notices the waves again. He uses the negotiations as a distraction and flies down into the canyon to gain a head start on finding the bead, with Lan reacting quickly to follow him. Xing and Bear Warrior also attempt to follow but are brought to a halt at the top of the canyon, which has suddenly formed a magic seal. They are both shocked at first, but Xing makes a tactical decision to remain where they are and wait for them to come back to the surface. Down in the canyon, Lan groups with Hua as they look ahead. Lan asks why they can't enter, with Hua responding that two of them on the island disallow the possibility of taking the bead. But Hua then quickly postures up to attack, which frightens Lan, who suggests that they fight once they've found the bead. Hua agrees and they have a moment of not being able to decide who goes first. Lan leads the way as they fly down the canyon, and creates a fire pyro which leaves Hua amazed as to the number of elements he can control. Hua then uses his shield to slow down Lan, who tries to strike back with a fireball attack which is unsuccessful and blocked. They reach the entrance to a mysterious sacred temple, with Lan attempting to strike Hua but yet again completely missing. Hua tells him that he's annoying and asks if he still wants to fight, which Lan doesn't respond to. They both approach a mysterious ancient rock at the center of the temple, which turns out to be indestructible as Lan attempts to crack it open to see if it possesses anything, leaving them to observe and discuss to themselves if this is perhaps the peerless bead. Hua walks over and places his hands on the rock, which forms a connection with his elements and suddenly causes him to be stuck and not able to let go. Hua then tells Lan that the bead belongs to the magic domain, so Lan also grabs the rock in a desperate attempt to take it for himself. He also forms a connection with his elements and can't let go, which makes him concerned for his life, accusing Hua of setting him up. The connection intensifies and begins to quake the entire island as the magic domain crew feels the impact and begins to worry for Hua. Shang and the Bear Warrior also feel the impact, which the Bear Warrior responds to by attempting to break the seal, which is now already gone. Shing follows her brother down into the canyon. Hua and Lan are both desperately attempting to break free and let go of the rock, which is beginning to crack and illuminate golden light. Inside the rock is what looks to be the peerless bead, which is energizing intensely and eventually sets off a huge reaction, knocking both Hua and Lan out cold. Lan regains some of his consciousness and sees the Bear Warrior and Xing approaching. They both search Lan and Hua, but nothing is found, making Xing question if the peerless bead is real or if its existence has been a hoax. Shang and the Bear Warrior depart from the temple and leave both Lan and Hua where they are. Hua eventually wakes up to a great cry from Lan, who is outraged as his clothes are torn to shreds by the Bear Warrior from the search. Hua concludes that the peerless bead was not in the temple and decides to depart. Lan is still outraged by everything and begins to curse even more at Hua, hoping that they never meet again. Before Lan departs from the island, he admits to himself that Hua is cunning and the quest was all just bad luck. He reunites with his dolphin and begins his journey back home. Hua is meditating on his ship, and some crew members watch and admire him for his elemental powers. Hua feels some disturbance, and realizes that a giant sea monster is approaching the ship, so he urgently informs his crew that they are under attack. He immediately uses his God-bestow power to raise the ship out of the water to avoid a blow by the monster. A shield is formed by Hua and the crew, who desperately fight to defend themselves before the monster is revealed to be a sea dragon. The shield fails to hold, so Hua desperately tries to reason with the sea dragon by asking why it is attacking them, with the sea dragon responding furiously, accusing him of stealing his young master. Hua is confused by this and tries to explain that there is a mistake, but the sea dragon shows no mercy and unleashes a significant attack which Hua fails to withstand. We then see Lan, who is elsewhere in the sea domain, singing as he rides his dolphin. The sea dragon's attack is going to strike Hua's head, but inches before impact, a light appears from his forehead which deflects the strike and mysteriously cuts Lan's shoulder. Lan is baffled and has no clue what caused the cut, and the sea dragon is also shocked that Hua was able to withstand his attack. Lan and Hua suddenly appear separately in a different realm with a mysterious floating portal key. The same mark appears on their foreheads, and they hear a voice that tells them that the peerless bead divides in two, which causes two people to share a life. They both connect with the portal, and this causes Lan to shockingly be teleported to Hua's ship. They are both beyond shocked and blame each other for what's just happened but snap out of their argument instantly as the sea dragon comes back. Lan is terrified and hides behind Hua before attempting to fly away since the sea dragon vows to destroy the ship. Lan is still attacked however, but he manages to defend himself and decides to make his way back on board the ship, which suffers a damaging blow. With the sail being destroyed, the sea dragon attempts to directly strike Lan and Hua, who are side by side using their elements. Lan then begins to lose his power, which all converts over to Hua, who carries out an enhanced block that brings the sea dragon to a halt. He orders Lan to quickly strike, but he can't bring himself to do this as he doesn't have his elements. However, he begins to connect with Hua and lands a huge blow on the sea dragon, causing it a lot of pain. They decide to connect their powers again by creating a 10th level divine statue for Lan to control. He lands multiple significant strikes, which results in the sea monster being slain and killed, all thanks to Lan and Hua's teamwork. Everyone is relieved and delighted to have survived the attack. Even Hua lets off a smile. Lan and Hua are now discussing and realizing that the peerless bead has connected their lives as one. They later argue about this, with Lan demanding Hua that he removes the bead from within him and that it's all his fault. Hua calls Lan childish, who responds by trying to punch him, only to be tripped up into a pile of boxes with some spiky balls falling on Lan, which causes some rashes to form on his face. Hua turns around however and reveals that he's received the same rashes. Lan finds it hilarious that Hua has also been hurt. They discuss at the fireplace what the power of the peerless bead can do now that they are both connected as one. They discuss the fact they share pain, power, and sense, but are both most excited by the thought of teleportation as they can separate from each other. They attempt to carry out the procedure but are unsuccessful and agree to continue trying in different postures. However, none of the postures seem to work. They stop to try and come up with new solutions and remember their elemental connection when they fought the sea monster, which gives them the idea of focusing on distance. They calmly sit in front of the fireplace and decide to slowly connect their fingertips. Hua is briefly hesitant to do so but follows through with it, and they form a connection, which teleports Lan back onto his dolphin. He's delighted to be away from Hua and begins to ride home. Whilst Hua is eating his supper, he hears Lan singing. This irritates him and results in him slapping his face, which causes Lan to fall off his dolphin. Lan is upset and enraged as they can hear and speak to each other through their minds, so he begins to curse again at Hua, only to be met with a hard slap across the face. They both can't bear the thought of sharing a life and scream that they have to remove this curse. But that's where this video ends. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.